We want to pray for our brothers and sisters who are about to address us. That God, you will give them the courage. You will give them the wisdom. You will give them the ability to articulate the issues. Father, we pray that you will protect us for the time we shall be here. And God, at the end of the day, as we come close to the general elections, we shall elect people wisely. I pray all this trusting in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together again for the Bishop, and thank you. For those of us who have joined us on television, you're more than welcome as history unfolds here at the Victoria Ballroom at the Serena Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, he has served this nation with distinction. He is an old, wise head, and as well, he is the chair of the Elders Forum Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together with myself and join me in making comfortable as well as welcoming Justice James Ogola.
Today is the day. Welcome all to this debate of the Jubilee. Never in the 50-year political history of Uganda has any electoral event of this magnitude ever happened before. With this presidential debate, we turn the corner from the old politics of the mundane to the new statesmanship of the future. With this debate, we bend the curve from the usual drama and hoopla of the campaign rally to the potent power of sober analysis and cool diagnosis of fundamental issues, all expressed in a deliberate debate of civility, courtesy, decency, and respect for one's political adversaries. And also the appreciation of competing political creeds and dogmas. With this presidential debate, we usher in a new and worthy precedent for future elections. Each and every one of you assembled here in this hall, each and every one of you seated at home, and each and every one of all the candidates who are going in a very short time to stand at the podiums that are before us here. We are all immensely privileged to be an intimate and constituent part of the national history that is being made and written here tonight. Our children, our children's children will always look back from the future at this day as the day on which the political fate of the country turned a vital corner. Thank you, candidates, and thank you, the live audience that is before us here. Thank you, all Ugandans, for standing with us on this front line of the reform of our electoral process. The initial steps on the long and difficult journey of reform of the electoral process and systems in Uganda starts here tonight in this Victoria Conference Hall. What a privilege that all of us are part of writing that history. I've spoken all those on behalf of the organizers of this debate, the Elders Council, Forum of Uganda, the Interreligious Council of Uganda, National Consultative Forum of Uganda, all of whom have been supported very effectively by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Permit me now to speak from my own heart about what I feel at this moment. I've condensed it in what you might call poetry. The heading is "The Debate is the Thing." The debate is the thing. Candidates decked in their rainbow of colors, speaking the speech of rhetoric, dissecting the discourse of oratory, displaying the skills of eloquence, portraying the politics of persuasion, all ready to compete in the marketplace of ideas. The debate is the thing. Electors tuned on the ear, intent to listen. Viewers with a sharp hawk's eye, keenly scouring the screen to judge the agile from the docile, to assess the adept from the inept, to choose the winner from the losers, all sitting in Solomon's chair to do the above. The debate is the thing. Here, no cheap drama of the political rally. Here, no base speech of the idle and the vulgar. No shrill voice or tongue of demagoguery. No mundane politics of the empty pledge or hollow promise. Here, only the nobler ideas and ideals of the mind take pride of place to titillate the political soul of the electorate. On the campaign trail, candidates stand on the shifting sands of populism. At the debate, the candidates stand on the solid platform of fundamental ideals and critical ideas. With firm figures and facts to wow the audience, with wit and humor to charm the electorate. The debate soothes the politics of rancor, binds the wounds of the mundane. Truly, the debate is the thing.
Wow, wow, wow. Couldn't have been put better, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ever closer to the debate proper. Ladies and gentlemen, I see two kids somewhere in Africa 60 years from today. One saying, my grandfather was the moderator, and another responding, no, my grandmother was a moderator too. Here in Uganda, we have them male and female when we are etching history in the fabric of our society. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome the moderators for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. The moment of truth has arrived. Good evening and welcome to the Uganda Presidential Debate 2016, coming to you live from the Serena Kampala Conference Center. Tonight, history will be made in this very hall, and we're privileged to be here to witness that. I'm Nancy Kachingira, along with my co-moderator, Alan Kasuja, and tonight we will get 8 presidential candidates coming here to hopefully give the answers to the questions that you want the most. Now, we will start with some ground rules. The event will follow a format and code of conduct that has been agreed to by the candidates. There will be 2-minute opening and closing statements from each candidate, and in between, a series of questions focused on 3 main themes. Those are governance, the economy, and social services. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and 30-second rebuttals will be permitted. We will then have a general discussion until we move on to the next segment. A timer has been made available to assist in adhering to those time limits, and a buzzer will go off when each candidate has 15 seconds left. Candidates are, of course, expected to engage each other with respect, or at the very least, civility. The audience here in the hall has also agreed to be polite and attentive. No heckling or outbursts, please. Of course, those of you at home are not so constrained and may respond as you wish. As Alan welcomes the candidates right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our first candidate. The first candidate for me to introduce is supposed to be President Museveni. He's not here at the moment. So the first candidate to get on stage, ladies and gentlemen, is Professor Venansius Baryamureeba. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes up on stage. After Professor Baryamureeba, the next candidate is the only female candidate in this contest. Her name, ladies and gentlemen, is Maureen Kyalya. The third candidate to make their way on stage is Dr. Colonel Kizza Besigye. Joseph Mabirizi is the next candidate to come on stage. Major General Benon Biraaro is the next candidate. The Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi is the next candidate. And ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, Dr. Abed Bwanika.
Welcome our candidates. As we begin this evening, let us go to the national anthem performed tonight by Watoto Children's Choir. Let's stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take our seats if we may. And at this point, we invite the candidates to take your various positions, if you may, as well. Thank you very much for showing up today. Let's give them a round of applause as they do that.
We will get underway immediately, and the first thing on our agenda tonight is opening statements. Candidates, this is your unfettered opportunity to tell the people of Uganda why you are the best man or woman for the job of president. You will have 2 minutes for your opening statements, and we will begin at my extreme right.
I think it's fine. You can just speak. Yes.
Hello. Okay. Yes, my name is Venansius Baryamureeba. I hold a PhD in computer science and I'm a professor of computer science. I'm running for president of this country, and the issue is that why am I the best candidate? Why am I the best candidate? I've been in the education sector for a very long time. And one of the sectors that requires fixing in this country is the education sector. And I feel when I look around, I'm the only person who can fix it. When you look at the health sector, it's also ailing. And education and health are related because the human resource that drives the health sector. I've been training people from universities and other institutions. They are all unemployed. They are all they're in a state of hopelessness. And I said I cannot remain in academic institutions, have to come out and create jobs for them. But most importantly, actually I'm next to the current president. I'm a candidate for transition. I stand for smooth transition. And if I'm 47 years old, I stand in between those who are 0 and 94. So I believe that I can actually provide a smooth transition in this country. Having said that, I have a very good manifesto that is based on the 12 issues and have come up with strategies in that manifesto. I've also come up with a budgetary framework that can actually guide the ministries, departments, and agencies when I become president this year to actually revise their plans, revise their business plans, their strategic plans, and be able to come up with good plans okay, thank you very much.
And the first time you hear that beep, it will just mean that you have 15 seconds to go, so
okay.
Don't need to stop. Thank you very much for that, Professor Baryamureeba. Next, Maureen Kyalya, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks so much. I'm called Maureen Kyalya Walube. I'm not going to say I'm the best candidate because I believe all my brothers standing here are good enough to be presidents to this country. But I have the best solutions for Uganda. I'm multi-skilled. I have very many education backgrounds. I'm a lawyer in the background. I'm an international social worker. I have worked both in Uganda as a national leader, a presidential aide and advisor, and I've also worked at the international level in the United Kingdom as a community champion and mobilizer. The reasons I came to stand for presidency and why I feel you only have me is because Uganda has, over the last 115 years, not sat down to solve our problems. Uganda went wrong at the foundation in 1900 in the Uganda Agreement, where every single section of Uganda was forced by the Uganda and the British to come under Uganda. We have never sat as a country to talk about it. There is a lot of bloodshed which has happened. We still continue killing ourselves. As a matter of fact, I've gone around the country. There is more tear gas at every single police post than there is medicine in any single hospital because this war is ongoing and it hasn't stopped. Trust me, I'm a mother, I'm a princess in Busoga, and my heel is love. I have infected all these people with love, as you can see in this race. Yes, we have to say harsh things, but we do love each other. And rest assured that whoever goes through as president here, you will not see the end of us because we are willing to take Uganda forward. So I call upon you as a nation Please choose me as your mother, but I am very, very happy with whatever choice you make, and we'll work with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to our next candidate, Dr. Kizza Besigye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A very good evening to all of you out here and those who are tuned in outside there. Very glad to be in this presidential debate, the very first one of its kind in our country. I thank the organizers. Couldn't have been an easy feat. And I'm glad that they are taking a cue from the debate that we've had as Forum for Democratic Change, who were the very first to have this kind of debate in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having this debate in a very unique context because we are seeking to choose a leader for our country where no leader of this country since independence has entered our state house without using the force of guns. And that must be very frightening for all those who live in this country and those who we are raising in our country. That we are now 54 years as an independent country without ever having a president entering State House out of the will of the people of Uganda and the free choice to lift that person into that office. So, ladies and gentlemen, even as we celebrate this momentous occasion of, this debate, I think the background of our politics ought not to be lost onto us, that we need a transition. And I'm offering two things. One, a liberation agenda, and two, a transformation agenda. It is what the country needs.
Mr. Joseph Mabirizi.
Praise the Lord. Good evening. My name is Elton Joseph Mabirizi, a father and an engineer by profession, and an investor, someone who has invested a lot in schools. All the candidates are having good manifesto, I may say that. We have those ones who are standing for member of parliament, they have manifestos, the councillors and others. But the most important thing is the question how. So I have the best approach towards whatever we want to do for our nation. So the question how, I have the best approach. Every candidate at any level, he wants to do something for Ugandans. They have plans for building schools, roads, fighting corruption, and so forth. But the reason is, how are you going to do them? So I have the best approach towards how to overcome whatever is going on. I managed to convince the 23 presidential aspirants who picked the nomination forms. So today, I'm here to convince the 7 the 7 and others to join me. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Major General Benon Biraaro.
Yes, my name's Major General Benon Biraaro Buta. I am president standing in as candidate of the Farmers Party of Uganda. We have a very big task. But let me first thank God for this occasion and thank the organizers for the only level ground in this campaign. Please clap for them. We are coming in at a time when the politics of this country is very polarized. mark the words of some candidates. Very, very polarized. And it has not been polarized very now. It's been over the last 15 years. So this 2016 elections is kind of a referendum for peace or for conflict. And this is where I come in. I am coming in on the side of peace. A man called Isaiah, Prophet Isaiah, said a nation can be born in one day, and this is tonight. I'm calling upon Ugandans to make a choice. And in that choice, the choice I want to lead is a unity government. After a lot has happened behind, in the military we used to do reorganization. I see this election transitioning into a reorganization period in this country, and that reorganization is what I call the unity government phase, to sort out things that have gone wrong together, build consensus, and then prepare a better future for this country. This is what I'm seeing, and this is what I have come to do. Ugandans, make that choice. Make the choice on the side of peace, make the side by taking the only peaceful party.
The Right Honourable Amama Mbabazi.
Some time ago, and in fact throughout my campaign trail in Uganda, I have put this question to Ugandans. Do you want change, or do you want more of the same? This is the question for you, every one of you, whether you are here in this audience or watching television or listening on radio or via the internet. That is the critical question I want you to answer today. Uganda, at this moment, faces many challenges. 83% of our youth are unemployed. The highest figure in Uganda, 83% unemployed. The other day, there was a news report of a man who, because he could not afford the fee of $150,000 for his wife to deliver in a health care center, he actually used a knife to cut the wife. And she died, and of course, the son died as well. 86% of our children this week failed to get a grade in primary schools. They could not even be graded because of the quality of our education. The situation in Uganda is so bad that clearly we have to make a choice. Do you want change, or do you want more of the same? Thank you.
The final opening statement from Dr. Abed Bwanika.
Thank you so much. Salutation to the organizers of this wonderful occasion and the people of the great nation of Uganda. Leadership at presidential level is about envisioning for a nation. It's about drawing roadmaps to how the nation must reach the desired destinations. And tonight, I've come with those roadmaps. Leadership at a presidential level is about identifying the challenges of a nation and coming up with solutions on how to mitigate these challenges. I've come with a proper diagnosis, and I've come with a proper treatment to help solve the problems of this nation. My drive are those people down there in the countryside who have been living in hope the last 30 years, who have been living in hope the last 54 years of our independence, but nothing has come their way. They go to the hospitals, they meet no drugs there, yet those who govern, they board planes and fly to South Africa for treatment. I stand on the side of those Ugandans in the countryside, the farmers, the ordinary people who have been praying and believing that one day someone will come with a program to help them move as a nation, to help them come out of poverty. And that candidate is Dr. Abed Bwanika.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for those opening remarks. A very quick observation. There are 5 of you in Uganda. There's 1 woman representing majority of the population of this country. So these are just a few observations about what is obvious right now. I'm going to start with you, Professor Baryamureeba, to get a few things out of the way right now. You know, you managed a university, started up another university. How do you even think that that qualifies you to run a country?
Oh, thank you very much. You know, when you run a university, you can run a country. At Mackay University, I gained experience, executive experience. You have a Senate, which is the parliament. You have management, which is like cabinet. And you're managing over 50,000 students. You're managing over 10,000 staff. You get a lot of experience. But I didn't only do that. I've been chairing several boards, executive boards. That's what we do in cabinet. I've been planning for this country. I've been influencing public policy. So when you look at me, I look at the role of a president. As per our constitution.
Thank you very much. We have a time set for everybody but to come back. So you've run out of time.
But I'm seeing
it's 30 seconds. It's 30 seconds rebuttal based on the question. Trying to get this
your screen was deceiving me. It was saying 2 minutes.
Oh. In which case, I will give you 10 more seconds to wind up then. As a consolation.
So a president is supposed to be the chief executive officer of our constitution. That is Article 99, Clause 1. And I have enough executive experience. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. And just for the sake of clarity, again, I think I do apologize to you, Professor Baryamureeba, because my clock was confusing me as well. I think you're right in saying that you had 2 minutes. So if you wish to continue, you may continue with your submission.
Sorry?
Yes.
You want me to start again?
Yes, no, if you want to continue.
Yes.
Yes, I do apologize.
Repeat the question and then I answer you.
No, again, it was just a question around what qualifies you, if you think that running universities and setting them up is really sufficient experience for you to
The experience I have is not about running a university only, but the university I've been running and the university I've run are actually big institutions. I've also been running big organizations as a chairperson of the board. I've also been influencing public policy in all places in this country. So when you look at what is required of a president, you require to have executive power because that's what the Constitution talks about, that you are going to be the head of the executive. And so with that, I'm best suited to lead this country.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. As we continue to explore this issue of electability and the governance, Ms. Kyalya, you ran for the Ginger Woman MP seat in 2011 on an FDC ticket. You worked for President Museveni and the NRM government after agreeing not to contest your electoral loss in the courts. You promised to campaign for a DP candidate in the current race for the seat and are now running as an independent presidential candidate while jointly campaigning with Joseph Mabirizi, the candidate of the Independence Coalition. So how do you respond to people who might see this quite long and arduous journey as a sign of someone who is unreliable and unprincipled?
Thanks so much for that question. First and foremost, I'm not a politician. I'm a social worker, more of a social worker than a politician. So when I set out to work for this country in 2007, I was working quietly. The lady who brought international calling down in this country, I put a force on MTN and Airtel and just brought in Law International calling at 500, they went down. I have been working underground all those years. I didn't need to come to the front line. I came to the front line because there was extreme poverty in my region, which is Busoga region, and that is why I stood for Woman Member of Parliament. Yes, I went to court. Yes, I won, but no, I did not say in court that I was living.
The question is, does this point to you as being a little wishy-washy?
Okay. Can I please answer the question? Yeah. When I worked in Busoga, the first thing I did was a research, which is online. If you enter my name, you can get it. I realized the issues of the people in that region. And after that, I came back to my boss, the president of this country, presented my report and presented the solution. And instead of addressing the problem, I was actually suppressed and oppressed. And
I'm sorry, but you're telling us why you moved and not what that says about you. The question is, when you make decisions like that, how can you tell people that this is what I stand for? Why should they believe you when you say that this is what you believe?
Let me take you a moment backwards. I went to court in December 2011. On the 29th of December 2011, I was dying for my life. I was actually in coma. I practically went in coma for 2 days. When I came back, I was too ill. I could not continue with politics.
All right. I'm sorry. I think that perhaps we're not really getting to the bottom of the reason I asked that question, but thank you. We'll move on.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, I'm pleasantly surprised that you're here, to be honest with you, because you had withdrawn from this debate. You had said that if President Museveni did not show up, you're not going to show up. This, to me, suggests that this is about you and Museveni. And you are making your entire campaign about Museveni. Is this right or wrong?
Far from right. First, and I think it is important that, people, especially who are not familiar with Uganda, understand that the institutional framework of this country has been all transformed into the person of the president. You cannot talk about the state of Uganda, the politics of Uganda, without talking about Mr. Museveni over the last 30 years. And actually, I think it is misleading for some people to try and separate Mr. Museveni from the state. Just like President Mobutu said, I think in every respect, Mr. Museveni is the state of Uganda, and therefore, and has been for the last 30 years. And therefore, really, if we want to interrogate and understand how we move from this position of the last 30 years, which, as I pointed out to you in my opening statement, is the same continuation from what happened since independence, we need to have a debate about a transition.
But I'll put something to you. The candidature of FDC, some people will say, what you're trying to do here, what President Museveni is doing in the NRM party is not too different from what you're doing in FDC. You have been standing as the candidate for FDC for the last 15 years without debunking President Museveni as you tried. Why don't you give that opportunity to other people to try? Because maybe what you're trying to do isn't working.
Oh, well, I can see that, Alan, you've been out in London long, maybe. Because actually, I am not a sole candidate of FDC. Like Mr. Museveni has been.
But Dr. Besigye, you're on record as specifically saying, and this is a matter that you've denied, but it is a fact, that you've said that you were not going to run this time.
Yes.
What are you doing here as a candidate?
Yes, but are you suggesting, I hope you are not suggesting that if I said I'm not going to run in certain circumstances, or even if I said I was not going to run at all, that I should not be free to change.
I'm not saying that, but
that I should not be free to change my mind.
No, you're not. You're allowed to change your mind.
Yes.
The same way you've changed your mind about the debate.
Yes.
And I'm sure that changing your mind is something that.
No, actually, changing.
But
my
what does
mind,
that say, though?
Changing my mind about the debate. Let me clear this. First of all, I met with Justice Ogola yesterday, in Mbale, and he confirmed to me that to the best of his knowledge, Mr. Museveni would be here.
So you made it about Mr. Museveni
And
again?
Justice Ogola is here. So I came here expecting indeed that Mr. Museveni is here, and I am truly disappointed. I am truly disappointed that he's not here, because unlike me, Mr. Museveni is our servant. We pay him. He has been our leader of this country for 30 years. He has a responsibility. It's not just a courtesy. He has a responsibility to be here and to account to the country.
Thank you. Mr. Mabirizi, at 40 years old, you are the youngest candidate in this race. Do you think you have a real chance of winning? And if this election doesn't go the way you want it, are you willing to work with any of the other candidates on the stage or not on the stage?
I don't think that I can lose these elections. I'm representing this generation. This generation is full of youth. And I started this journey 10 years ago. I sat down and made a critical analysis about what was going on. And many of the youth who are going to vote for the first time, I'm the very person who mobilized them to register. So there isn't any way I can talk about my losing and whatever. So I must go through.
Have you featured in any polls that have been conducted as a leading candidate?
Come again?
You said that you don't think that you can lose. I'm just wondering if you have seen any polls or other sort of evidence that might indicate that indeed you cannot lose.
Here, the indicators are, all the youth are ready to vote for me. So those are the indicators which show that I can't lose. The second one, Uganda, every part of Uganda is yearning for change. And I'm the real fundamental change for Uganda. All others, they have served with the government. I have never served with the government. All others, they pass through bush. I have never been in the bush. So I'm representing this generation. There isn't any way how I can fail to go through. Thank you.
Major General Biraaro, why should Ugandans change from one soldier to another? Aren't you going to perpetuate the same, or what some people continue to call militarism, that is witnessed in this country?
For the last 30 years, the soldier that has been in charge has lived at State House. The soldier that you have seen has lived in Karamoja, in Soroti, in Kitgum, in all the districts of Uganda with the people. If there is anybody here who intimately knows the feelings of Ugandans, the yearning for change, the frustration of anybody that has not been served well by this regime, this is General Biraaro.
Are you saying that even as a soldier, this regime did not serve you well?
It did not. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Long ago, I told them, I said, you are getting off the track. I went to the bush 24 years old. We wanted to see proper democracy. We wanted to see things that would change this nation to the right direction. I have a list of things that I have been seeing, and I will talk about them later on, that have gone wrong across this nation. The direction, political direction, the misuse even of the security forces. This, I have seen it, and I must come to correct it.
Here's the thing, Dr. Kizza Besigye, the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, Major General Biraaro, President Yoweri Museveni all have a history of the bush.
Yes.
Are you bush people, if I may, and I say that with respect, are you in any way feeling a sense of entitlement? Do you feel that this is your thing and therefore we are owed this opportunity to run this country?
No, I feel a sense of disappointment. What took us there has not been fulfilled. That's what brings me. Two, while in the bush, there was a lot of studying. And I know many more bushmen will be coming in other time. I have seen what it was. We studied, we did the theorizing, we went through it, blood, water, sweat, everything. When we came here, it was like the proverbial, the journey of the Israel children crossing the Red Sea, and all of a sudden the leader saying, oh, the direction to Canaan is here, pointing to where you have come from. And that's what I didn't want.
Okay, finally, before I let you go.
Yes, yes.
Do you think the army should remain in parliament?
No.
Thank you very much.
No.
Honorable Mbabazi, you have said just a few minutes ago, you've asked actually whether people want things to change or stay the same. But there are many who would feel that voting you in would not necessarily cause things to change. And there are many questions about which Mbabazi are we voting for. The one who was part of the NRM regime and part of the ruling class, or the one who now fights for the rights of teachers and wants to increase their salaries in his manifesto, even though he is on record striking teachers that they should go back to work or else. Which Mbabazi should the people of Uganda look at today?
Well, I think that, and I have been saying so at every public meeting I've held, that it is time for Uganda to witness a peaceful change of leader. And I think Uganda needs a leader with innovation and experience. One that knows about these problems and has the exact formula to fix them. And I think I provide that type of leader. I have had a lot of experience, as you know, as you are saying yourself. I have been in government for a long time.
But the question is that the things that happened while you were in the government, for instance, we can talk about the intimidation of your opponents, supporters in King Kizza County West in the 2001 and 2006 parliamentary election, and now you have raised similar concerns about violence. So what should we believe?
Well, you should believe the facts. And the facts are that there was no intimidation in Chinchiz West in 2001. And that was the finding of the court. At any rate, there was an incident. There was an incident where one of my supporters was engaged in a fracas with a number of people. Now, I could not be held responsible for his actions. Point number two. This point about the teachers is not true. I did preside over the negotiations with teachers. We agreed on a pay rise. 50% scattered were to be paid over a 3-year period. 20%, 20%, 15%.
But if I may quote, as Prime Minister, you said you would fire all teachers who were striking. That's what you said. You said you would fire all teachers who were striking. Now you say you would like to increase teachers' salaries.
Well,
Please continue.
You know, I was waiting for the point of order.
This is not parliament. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Now, I did negotiate with teachers. We reached an agreement with their representatives, and we implemented it. When I was Prime Minister, we made the first commitment. We raised the salary. The second commitment was made. When I left that office, the third commitment was not made. Now, these are not actions of a leader who was threatening to arrest teachers, because how would I threaten to arrest them when, indeed, we had reached an agreement? I don't think it's true.
Abed Bwanika, I wonder why you're still running for presidency. You've made it, some people say, some sort of career to come in and run for office, unless otherwise. Because why are you still running? You got about 50,000 votes before, and prior to that, that was a decline from about 60,000 votes the time before that. And what point are you trying to make?
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm surprised that you asked that question. If you look around in this nation, you'll find reasons good enough for a person like me.
I've asked you for your reasons, though.
I'm giving you a reason. If you look around this nation, I've said the reason why I keep coming, they are my people in the village, whom the likes of my friend here, Amama, have been promising things which have never happened. The people who have been waiting in the countryside, they are the reasons why I keep coming. Every time I go home, in my village, I find their state is still the same that they were in 2011. I cannot sit and watch because I got 60,000 the other time. I still have the best manifesto.
But nobody seems to be paying attention to that manifesto. Nobody seems convinced by your manifesto.
They are going
That's why they're not voting for you.
They are going to pay attention. They are going to pay attention. If the conditions of the people of Uganda improved, I will not come again.
Let me tell you something else that worries me about you. You on record as having said that you're surprised and disturbed by the fact that Baganda don't vote for you, which unsettles me a little bit.
What is the problem with that?
Because this is a country of many different ethnic groups. And for you to come up and say that Baganda should be voting for you because you're a Muganda, some will say is quite myopic and simplistic.
That is to you. First of all, nobody should be intimidated. If I ask support from an area where I'm born, I don't think anyone should take it.
You feel entitled to that support.
Yes.
You're not asking for it.
No, I'm asking for it. And first of all, you need to understand my statement. I've never mentioned that Baganda should support me. I said the people of Uganda. The people of Uganda are not only Baganda. I ask for support from the people of Uganda where I'm born. Any candidate should ask for support where you are born. I don't see something wrong with that.
And then there is also the element, this is something that Mr. Joseph Mabirizi will relate to. Pastors showing up and running for presidency, invoking God's name, supernatural power, And I say this, I just want to remind you, again for historical context, that other people who have tried to run this country have invoked the name of God, not least Joseph Kony and Alice Lakwena. Should this country be voting people on the basis of their spiritual beliefs, or should it be on the basis of a plan to move them forward?
I have not floated myself anywhere claiming that because I'm a pastor, that one gives me credentials to become the president of Uganda. But also it is a fact that within the religious community, there is a talent pool which has leadership skills, and Dr. Abed Bwanika is one of them.
Thank you very much to all the candidates. We will be taking a short break now, but we return with more of the Uganda Presidential Debate 2016. Welcome back to the Uganda Presidential Debate 2016. In this segment, we'll be unpacking the candidates' manifestos, starting with what they have to say about the economy. We've got the elephants in the room out of the way, and now it's time to look towards the future and what plans the candidates have. We will start with the question of debt. Uganda currently owns about $6 billion in debt, and the debt to GDP ratio has been growing every year since 2008. We'd like to hear from each candidate what plans you have to deal with this. We'll start with you, Professor Baryamureeba.
How much time?
2 minutes.
I hope it is strictly 2 minutes. Thank you very much. When it comes to debt management, the issue of debt, I would like to look at controlling public expenditure. That will help us save some money and service the debts. I would like to look at controlling the issue of acquiring more debts. I would like to look at the issue of public service reform, because that also will bring down the money we are spending as government. We can use some of that money to repay the debt. The other issue is to expand the economic activities, supporting the private sector. And one of the areas that we need to focus on is an agricultural policy, where we increase agricultural production. Once we do that, we're able to make more money and then service the debt. The other one, of course, is to increase employment opportunities, because as government, we collect money like payee.
How will you do that specifically?
Sorry?
How will you do that specifically?
Increasing employment opportunities.
Yes.
You've just heard that 83% of Ugandans are unemployed. So I have plans of, for example, creating 1 million jobs every year in business process outsourcing. This is where you can work for companies in America and Europe when you're based here. If you are a teacher, you can do online tutoring. If you're an accountant, you can do bookkeeping. If you're a receptionist, you can receive calls from here. If you're a data analyst, you can analyze data.
I've heard that before from President Museveni, you know.
Sorry?
He's actually said it before. President Museveni planned that in his previous manifesto. He said that he'd do those things. And obviously these things aren't happening. Why should you be the one to...
He planned it and he didn't have capacity to do it. I'm a professor of computer science. I'm a professor of computer science, and I've been doing consultants in this area. And for the countries that have done it for them, they have excelled in it. And so I'm going to ensure that this is something we shall focus on as a country and increase employment opportunities. But of course, the other sectors, like tourism sector, we are going to create more jobs, collect more money in payee and other areas. We are looking at also utilizing our resources, like the minerals, the oil, all that will help us to clear the debt.
You know, I'm hoping, Madam Kyalya, you'll be a little more specific, because I've learned nothing about how Professor Baryamureeba plans to achieve those things in specific detail. I'm wondering from you, he talks about, for example, youth employment. Talk to me in specific detail how you're planning to achieve that, because that is very easy to talk about at a rally somewhere in Bukoman Simbi, but how do you actually do it?
Yes, let me show you the example.
I'd like Ms. Kyalya to respond to that.
Thanks very much. Before I get to that, I would like to raise my concern that if we're going to participate in this debate, we have to be allocated time fairly. In the last question, I felt that all my colleagues, but me and Professor Baryamureeba, we are not given time to actually answer our questions. So please, moderators, could we kindly answer our questions equally? Thank you.
Okay.
Now, back to your question.
Please.
I have been around, actually, when you are a presidential advisor and aide on poverty alleviation, that means you are a senior consultant. So I've been a senior consultant in the field, and I have done the studies. Now, what I would do in Uganda, I would use a strength-based approach, because I've had a chance to study the different communities in Uganda, and each community has something they do. For instance, in Busoga, the agriculturalists, the Itesos are cattle keepers. In Western Uganda and Uganda, it's mainly Matoke. So what I would do is to make sure I use their strength and encourage them as a community, restoring cooperatives, putting, for instance, mechanized agriculture in place, commercialized agriculture, and organizing people according to their strength. In doing this, I'm considering collective responsibility and definitely a task-centered approach. What does this mean? That I'll be setting 3 things. For instance, in the next 5 years, let me just use it as for an illustration. I need to make sure that their cattle is restocked. I need to make sure that their their cattle industry is restored, and I need to make sure that I balance the communication between Teso and Karamoja so that the cattle rustling does not continue, actually to make sure that there is love between the communities. And I believe when it comes to the whole of Uganda, we are wealthy, we have everything we need, we just need to work together collectively, and we shall get out of that. Thank you.
Do you feel like you've had enough time this time?
Sorry?
You feel like you've had enough time?
Not really, because I didn't, but it's okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Besigye, your thoughts on reducing debt?
Yes, thank you very much. And I think the debt question is a very, very serious one for our country, because not long ago, our debt was actually forgiven almost entirely. And we are back more than where we were without showing anything for it. So one of the things that really one must do if we are to address any of the serious problems we have in this country is to address the question of accountability. Because most of the debt that we are contracting is debt that goes into private pockets. If it was going into production, then it would be going a long way into repaying itself. So really we must tackle corruption, and in tackling this, the starting point obviously must be people with the will to do so, the will to fight corruption. And I think that is one of the things that have been truly lacking in most of the administrations. It's something that I would offer indeed, a will to fight
What corruption. Is the will to fight? What does that even mean?
The will is the commitment. The commitment.
But how do you implement a will to fight? How do you do that?
Well, by doing what you are supposed to do.
Yeah, but still, you're not answering. What does doing what you're supposed to do is what civil servants think they do every day in this country. How do you implement the will that you're talking about? How?
The will is not implemented. The will is effected.
How?
Is effected by doing what you commit yourself to do. If you wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and you don't do it, then you have no will to do what you want to do. So one judges the will by what our experience, and this is why in these elections it's important that the electorate indeed interrogates the candidates' backgrounds, whether they have been able to do what they commit to do, or whether they just talk and don't do what they commit to do. So that is, a will is judged by performance of what you intend to do. But secondly, beyond the will, quite obviously, it's important that we focus on the laws that relate to management of corruption, the dealing with corruption, and we have specific suggestions to strengthen the laws that relate to corruption, improving transparency, improving the following of what leaders acquire in office and so on. We have specific proposals in that area. The third area, of course, is strengthening the institutions themselves that deal with corruption, to make them more independent, to make them more competent, to resource them, so that they are able to do what they intend to do. And corruption, as I have said, is only one area. But beyond corruption, the question of debt must be solved by increasing productivity and reducing consumption. And increasing productivity is one area.
I'm afraid you're out of time. There was a little more time because Alan had a rebuttal.
Yeah.
But we'll have to move on to the next candidate now. Mr. Mabirizi, what are your thoughts on reducing debt?
Thank you, moderators. Allow me to read the People's Manifesto, the People's Voice. This is what Ugandans say about the national debt. This manifesto was generated from people of Uganda. So this is what they say.
We prefer that you speak to us.
I'm reading the People's Voice.
We prefer that you speak to us without reading. Please, if I may respectfully ask you to do that. We'd like to hear your thoughts. I'm sure we can get access to the
I'm not standing on my own. As I told
you can distill for us what is in that. Kindly, sir. We're here to hear your thoughts today.
The current government is borrowing money without putting the measures how debts should be managed. So what we are going to do is this. We are going to make sure that there is proper debt management.
What does that even mean? What do you mean proper debt management? Like what? Give me specific examples of what you're talking about.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is this. A lot of money that we borrow from outside, it is being embezzled and misused. So once you fight corruption, you have enough money to pay back the debts.
Okay, so
and this is what we are going to do about corruption.
Let me tell you one thing that every single politician in this campaign is likely to say: we are going to fight corruption. That is a standard statement. So I'm really interested in hearing how you are going to fight it.
But Ugandans are interested.
I'm saying
so
I'm interested in hearing.
That question. Why don't you allow me to answer the question about the debt?
So what are you going to do specifically to fight corruption?
Number one, it's about debt management. How are you handling the money you've borrowed from outside? That's number one. Then a lot of money is being misused. That's why I'm saying, in order to pay the debt, you need to deal away with corruption.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm fighting corruption. I have the best approach. Okay. You need to make sure that you don't just drag the culprits into prison, but make sure that you confiscate their property, and there is a committee to sell them off, and you inject that money into health, education, and other services.
Okay.
Number two, those people must be denied any government job for at least 15 years.
Thank you, sir. I'm afraid that's our time there. Let's hear from you, Major General Biraaro.
Yeah, debt management is a big issue, but I look at it from the other point of view. Look, where are we as Uganda? We are heavily indebted poor country, as they have said. And how do we get from there? Wealth creation. This is why I am committed to devoting 3 trillion to agriculture following the Maputo Declaration. 3 trillion. So that every district is an export zone of some kind. That must be done. Secondly,
okay,
I am looking at tourism.
Just about that. Export zone of some kind. Exporting to who? How do you export from those districts to wherever you're proposing?
Exporting to who?
Yeah.
You are asking?
I am seriously asking you that because, because you have districts. You have problems with infrastructure. We have no airline. We barely have a functional railway system. So where do these things that you're talking about?
I get you now. Exporting is to outside countries, to the buyers. But my point was, we have had so many districts as units, political units, but they are not economic units. They are sucking from the central government. So I am saying zoning must ensure that every district becomes an economic unit. And that will happen with that, because when I devote 33 trillion, on average, each district is going to receive 30 billion from central government to invest in agriculture. That's number one. Number two, I went to France. France is the first tourist country in the world. And they have 60 million people. They receive 80 million tourists every year. I am going to work hard so that Uganda can receive 10 million. That would be giving us $8 billion income, much more than even oil can do that. And that's what, three, the question of human in the long run, our human resource capacity. I'm working seriously on that. So that productivity, because when you compare us, the development index in the region,
I'm afraid that's as much time as Alan took from you. Thank you very much. Let's go to Honorable Mbabazi. We are on the subject of debt reduction. Your thoughts?
I want to state very clearly that borrowing money, being in debt, is all right. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I've been telling those peasants that I meet on my tour that the rich people they see are rich on other people's money. And the question is, to what use you put the money you borrow? And my problem is that Uganda is not a productive nation. We have a problem of not being able to export much, and yet we import so much. There is an imbalance there. So what we need to do is to make sure that we have a system in place, and we are proposing it in our manifesto, have a system in place that turns the entire force, especially the young, able-bodied Ugandans, to work so that we become productive, so that we are able to produce enough to export to other markets, and we are able to pay back the debts.
Right Honorable Mbabazi, listening to you talk, it seems like this is an epiphany. You've been in government for 30 years. What took you so long to realize that you can actually do those things, and why didn't you do them before?
Who said it took me long?
So why didn't you do them when you still had the opportunity while you were still in government? What was the problem with that?
Well, let me tell you something about government in Uganda. The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda puts all executive power in the hands of the president. All those who work under him, and have been telling this to the peasants, all those who work under him, in this case it is a him, actually execute delegated authority.
I'd just like to suggest something.
I have therefore been dutifully performing what he that wields the power wanted me to do.
I don't know how many Ugandans will believe you when you say that. Because, just to give you an example, Super Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Attorney General, all these things, defense security rolled into one. And then suddenly you claim that you are a lame duck appointee of the president. That does not add up. It doesn't make sense. So one has to wonder, what is it about reducing debt that you're likely to do now that you weren't able to do before? And what exactly was the problem with you doing it before now? If that makes sense.
You know, Alan, I think there is something wrong with the system because I don't pick. Maybe we get very close like this. Then we might get what you're saying. What was your point?
I think my bigger point here is you need to own up to the fact that you are part of the system, basically. And those ideas that you seem to want to implement now could have been implemented with your influence in the past. And the question is, what are the mistakes that were made before that you're able to correct now and move forward with them? Why couldn't you do it before?
Well, I think now it's a debate between hypothesis and fact. I represent fact. What I'm saying is actually what happened. It's true, I've been all those things you've mentioned, but I'm also telling you that power in Uganda and our constitutional arrangement.
Did you struggle to reduce debt when you were in government?
Pardon?
Did you struggle with debt reduction when you were in government?
You see, when you're in government, you have what they call collective responsibility. You have free debate within cabinet, and whatever the majority decides is actually what is done. In this case, the cabinet itself performs an advisory role to the president, and whatever they say need not be what is carried. So I am absolutely proud of what I did all the time I was in government, my contribution, both in giving ideas which were not accepted and giving ideas that were accepted. So I am perfectly happy with it.
Thank you. Dr. Abed Bwanika.
First of all, our debt to GDP ratio, the percentage is currently 36%. America, they are indebted over 16 trillion. For us, we are worried with 7 billion, just 7 billion. That is our worry. The problem is not borrowing. Any government, any serious government that wants to do business, we will borrow. The problem is whether you have put that money into productive areas. Our issue here in Uganda, we have borrowed money which we have committed, and we are paying commitment fee on money which we are not using. There is a lot of money within finance which we are not using. We simply go in because we don't have a serious parliament. We have people whom we are sending to parliament who must be somewhere in a village council. We need serious people in that parliament. We must put a debt ceiling if we want to manage this debt. We must put a debt ceiling. And we must have a serious parliament doing the oversight role in this issue of the debt ceiling. Secondly, we are talking about a debt, it's not only foreign debt. We also have a domestic debt which also distorts the economy here. Government comes in through Bank of Uganda with treasury bills and bonds, and they raise the interest rates. So the people of Uganda end up not accessing money for credit from the banks, and that is a huge problem. That is a huge problem. We must, if we want to manage this debt, number one, we must expand our economy. There are three ways government can get money: through revenue, tax revenue, and
I'm afraid your time is up, Dr. Bwanika. But as we continue this discussion around the economy, you've mentioned reducing a debt, and you've talked about the debt ceiling. Now, one of the things that you have promised in your manifesto is laptops to children. A laptop per child up to primary 4, as well as school uniforms and lunch. How are you going to achieve promises like those while trying to keep debt manageable?
As I've told you, our GDP, our economy, is one of the smallest in the whole world. It is only 27 billion. The richest man in the whole world, Bill Gates, has 79 billion, richer than Uganda times 3. We must be ashamed as a nation, to 40 million people, that someone is richer than us times 3. What I'm going to do is to expand the economy of Uganda. We must ensure that every Ugandan is included within the monetized economy. I want to empower the ordinary people so that they can produce. That's why I want to invest 15% of the national budget into agriculture, so that we improve our exports and money will come in. When we improve our exports, and there are so many people within the economy, the money that we collect as tax revenue and non-tax revenue, it will increase. I'm not talking about giving a laptop, basing myself on the budget of Uganda, which is 24 trillion. I'm talking about doubling Uganda's economy, using agriculture, using tourism, attracting Ugandans who are outside this country to invest into this country, and also ensure that the nations around us, they come to Uganda as a trade hub. When we do that, our economy will double.
Thank you, sir.
And Right Honorable Mbabazi, you propose something that is called the sub-county model, and you propose the creation of 444,160 jobs in your manifesto. And you've also proposed to increase the allocation to agriculture to 10% from the current 3%. And you expect that there'll be a creation of government jobs. I wonder if all these promises can actually be achieved without plunging Uganda into even more debt.
I think they are achievable. The advanced sub-county model is to turn the sub-county into the hub of development and transformation of the community within the sub-county. And first of all, we will restore cooperative societies so that the marketing of goods by these producers and even the production itself is controlled and they benefit from advantages of scale. And the idea here is that with government expenditure from the budget, we would be able to build the advanced sub-county model to turn the sub-county into a partnership in development between the government and the people, so that we encourage productive forces within the sub-county. And we establish an agricultural commodities exchange which will do the marketing, find exports, find markets for export of our goods. This is the point I had been making earlier, that we really must be a productive nation. And in order to do that, the government must be organized and create an atmosphere where production, which has been going on, but not succeeding simply because the people who are productive have not had any help from outside. And what we are trying to do is to create a framework for sustainable production.
Thank you, sir. Your time ends there, but thank you for that. We'll go to Ms. Kyalya. What is your understanding of the Ugandan economy? Is it in crisis? And if it is, what should be done about it?
Yes, it is in crisis, and obviously because of the extravagance, the corruption, and also the godlike leadership we have, whereby the president of this country is actually a god who wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to spend 18 billion to buy hoes. Whether people want them or not, that's what I'm going to do. So there is a very big mismatch between what we need as a nation and what is being spent in terms of those dates. Having said that, Uganda and Africa is the richest continent, and all the rich countries actually got their gold and get their minerals to date from here, America, Europe, China, everywhere. So I believe we are not that desperate. We just need to get united, get together, work together, use the wealth that God gave us, and within 1 year, actually, we can pay off the debt and also get wealthy as a country.
So if you became president, what 3 things would you do to ensure that you achieve what you just talked about?
That's the summary of my manifesto. Starting point, unity. We need to get together. When one person does something, Kyalya comes up and says, I'm fighting poverty in Busoga. Another politician comes and fights it and brings the whole Busoga backward. That's just an example. So we need to be united, work together, and for the same thing. We need to get to the equality issue. Uganda is absolutely unbalanced. If you want to find children without shoes, get the other side of the Nile. If you want to find children decently dressed, get one side. If you want to find children studying under trees, go to the other side of the Nile, the eastern, northern side of the Nile. If you want to find children studying in double-storied houses, go to the western side of the Nile. So there is a very, very great imbalance in Uganda, and if we balance it up just by balancing the infrastructures like roads, then the farmers are going to be able to bring their produce actually to the market. We have waiting markets. United Arab Emirates has no food. They have no land. Uganda can produce food to United Arab Emirates, and everybody can be rich. But that inequality is affecting us. And of course, it has to be through affirmative action, because 80% of the labor in Uganda is provided by women. But those women are disempowered completely. We do not have a right to property.
Okay.
We do not have a right to make decisions. We don't even own our children, whom we actually die giving birth to. So if we do balance up that, I'm sure as a nation, we are going to progress, because our brothers, the men, need us, and we need them, and together we can.
Okay, Dr.
Thank you.
Besigye, what is it about the current government's economic policy that you disagree with the most? What particular economic policy, Dr. Besigye now, what particular economic policy do you disagree with the most? I'm asking Dr. Kizza
Dr. Kizza, no, I'm going to say to three people, Dr. Kizza Besigye, Dr. Biraaro, and Honorable Amama Mbabazi, because they were all integral in forming the NRM system. The NRM system does not respect the culture of Uganda. It does not respect the foundations of Uganda. When Uganda was made, we have different characteristics. We have every single previous kingdom or state, say the Itesos, the Vasuga, the Baganda, every single group has their own characteristics that ought to be respected. But the NRM system makes us like all uniform children, does not allow the community to input.
Your point is duly noted. And if the technicians can make sure that the monitors are loud enough for the people on the podiums to hear, that would be very appreciated. I'm going to give you an opportunity to come back to that. Dr. Besigye, she's basically saying you are one of the architects of the system. Whether you've tried to delink yourself from it or not, you, Major General Biraaro, Amama Mbabazi, Yoweri Museveni are cut from the same cloth. What do you say to that?
Well, I have never at any moment distanced myself from being one of the architects of the NRM system. And the NRM system was a good system. It's not the system that Mr. Museveni is running. Mr. Museveni simply deserted the NRM system and is now, operating a very, monstrous system compared to what the NRM system was. Let me tell you what the NRM system was based on. The NRM system was based on reconstructing the foundations of the country. Because all the other things you see, and this is very instructive, most of the other things you want to talk about, whether it's, building the infrastructure, whether it's the policies of taxation and so on, they must be constructed on the basis of a democratic society where there is accountability, where there is transparency in whatever is being done. Once those are not there, you are in the wilderness. You can espouse all kinds of beautiful programs. They will never function.
So talk to me about the economic policy that you disagree with the most in this country. What is it? Because I hear you. I hear the rhetoric. I hear the political statements you make. I see the anecdotes you point out. What I don't hear very specifically are your policies.
Are the policies?
Yes.
Well, you must be hearing from a very different environment from the one we operate in. Because, first of all, the privatization process that took place in this country, which was, a perfect policy, it was done in a way that it...
But you understand, though, that by giving me the privatization policy, you're taking me back, and yet I'm asking you about the future of this country. I'm asking you where we are going from here on. And the point is, how are we going to move this? What economic policies are we seeing at the moment that are not progressive?
Very well. The most important thing is to put our money where our people are. And as I think a number of the panelists here have pointed out, one of the critical areas for our country in terms of production is real agriculture. And this has been the area that has been most starved. In fact, the budget for agriculture is less than the budget for the presidency. Yet 80%, more than 80% of our people derive livelihood from agriculture. So one of the areas we, radically differ from what the NRM is doing is the investment in agriculture, to make it an engine of production and an engine for the economy. We, of course, would want to also differ from the NRM in terms of the industrialization agenda. Because for the NRM, they have just left the industrialization agenda to foreign investors.
But they're building roads, they're trying to increase on the capacity of electricity to encourage people to come and manufacture.
Pardon?
They're building roads, they're working on increasing the capacity of electricity. So you cannot necessarily say that nothing is being done.
Well, saying that nothing has been done is obviously your own words. I haven't used any such words here. But talking about what you say they are doing, you know, this government has been in place for 30 years. The cost of constructing 1 kilometer of tarmac road in Uganda is 10 times the cost of constructing a similar road anywhere in the region. So if you talk about constructing 100 kilometers, you would have done 1,000, maybe 5,000 kilometers. We are talking about Bujagali Dam, which they are singing about. Bujagali Dam was constructed at a cost of more than $1 billion for 250 megawatts. This is 4 times what could have been done with the money that built Bujagali.
I hate to belabor.
In one Bujagali, we lost 4 Bujagalis.
Thank you, Dr. Besigye. I'm going to have to stop both of you there so we can move on to another candidate and make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. Professor Baryamureeba, I'm going to present this issue as it was presented to us on social media. Someone called Doreen Namanya asked the question, for nearly a decade now, we've heard that there is oil in Uganda, but beyond that, we do not know the other details pertaining to its extraction. The kinds of contracts that have been signed between oil companies and the government, we know nothing of. Basically, we're in the dark about this oil and how it benefits us. How will you ensure that there is transparency, openness, and accountability on oil and other resources? And we can probably start with asking whether you've seen any of the agreements that have been made about oil.
Thank you very much. When it comes to the oil sector, in terms of transparency, my view is that the oil companies must publish what they pay to the government. And the government must publish what it earns from these oil contracts. And also must publish what it spends. So when you look at in the current contracts, we have not yet reached production stage, but I think there is a lot that needs to be done. And one of the things we need to do is to go back and consult all the stakeholders and come up with good laws that can help us to ensure that there is transparency in the way we do things. Because as of today, most of the contracts are negotiated in State House. We want to see institutions handling that, like Parliament given more powers. The Parliament will be given more powers to decide on who takes what.
Thank you. I would just like to ask if there is anyone on the stage who has actually seen these agreements that are made about oil. Has anyone seen the share agreement? Ms. Kyalya, have you seen them?
I have not seen the agreement, but I'm 100% sure that the people of Toro, none of them is actually a beneficiary in those agreements, because even the companies that have been named in the oil deals are international companies, so already we have a very big problem in Uganda.
Okay, and now to you, Mr. Mabirizi, as an engineer, I wonder what your thoughts are about the viability of the oil sector. Is it still viable? The oil sector, is it still viable? Mr. Mabirizi.
Your voice, at times it's slow. I don't know whether it's because
I do apologize if there's a technical problem here, and I do ask you guys to make sure that the monitors are loud enough for the candidates to hear. My question to you is, given the current oil prices, would you consider the oil sector viable for Uganda at the moment?
We have oil, But what I have to say about having oil in Uganda, it's not about maybe building the refinery here. I will consider building the refinery at the coast of Kenya. And when we talk about oil,
there is a refinery at the coast of Kenya.
Yes.
Kenya has a refinery, but I'm still asking you about whether it is still worth investing in the oil sector in Uganda at the current oil prices.
Thank you. Investing in oil, it is not the major source of income that we should invest into. There are some other things that we should inject money into to boost our economy. Take an example of agriculture and tourism. So I think there is a need to inject more money in agriculture and in tourism rather than injecting more money in oil, because oil prices are going down all over the world, apart from here in Uganda.
All right, thank you very much to all our candidates. We're going to take another short break so you can have some time to confer with your advisors and take a little break. And when we get back, we will continue with this discussion. Thank you.
Welcome back to this historic debate. It's televised live to Uganda and across the world. My name is Alan Kasuja and my co-moderator is Nancy Kachungira. Now, we were talking about the economy, and welcome back to our candidates. Again, Abed Bwanika, Amama Mbabazi, Benon Biraaro, Joseph Mabirizi, Kizza Besigye, Maureen Kyalya, and Venansius Baryamureeba. And let's just go back into discussing the economy, starting with you, Benon Biraaro. You are the leader of a farmers' party. We can't all be farmers, can we? We can't all be farmers. So the question then becomes, beyond trying to use farming to generate economic growth, what else do you plan to do as the Farmers' Party?
Oh, we have a lot to do. First of all, in terms of the economy. But let's understand that bit of the farmers. You see, this country was built by farmers, literally. Trade, they stimulated trade between them and the Asians especially, and then they built Kampala and the industries that went on. Now, later years, I have a list, I wish I could read it time permitting, of the many industries that were helping agriculture in this country that have gone defunct, which must be revived. But secondly, I looked at it and I said, what is the key that can start this whole economy running so that we have the farmer buying from the traders, then the traders buying from industry. And now, that's why it was not my brilliance, but going Maputo Agreement, Maputo Declaration, saying if you do not give more than 10%, devote 10% of the budget every year to farmers and agriculture, you are lying. You won't get anywhere.
So talk to me then about what's going on at the moment with NADS, with Operation Creating Wealth, all these attempts by the government to use farming to improve household income. What's the problem with them, and what would you do different?
They are non-starters. First of all, look at NADS. When you do anything, when you stimulate anything, it should grow an economy to an industry. I come from Isingiro. They call farmers to the district headquarters, distribute to one 2 cups of beans, the other one 2 trees of mango, this one chicken, the other one, and you look at that combination and say, when will it make Isingiro an industrialized state? My approach is, let's get an area. And this is where I was talking about specialization. If you went through Nakasongora area, you see them growing a lot of trees and they come out well. let's get everyone in Nakasongora convinced about growing trees so that the wood industry will be best in that area.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Major General Biraaro.
Let's go to you, Dr. Bwanika. You want to reduce the size of the government to 30 ministers and also to reduce the number of parliamentarians. Is this partly in a bid to manage the country's balance sheet?
Yes, but allow me also to put my input in terms of agriculture, because this is a very important sector if we are going to grow the economy of Uganda. We have 40 million acres of land in this country. We have the biggest lake on the African continent, unutilized. What I want to do, put 15% of the national budget into this area. Empower the farmer to be productive. I want to put tractors at the sub-county level, give 2 plowing animals per family in areas where they use plowing animals, so that they can plow the land. We want to bring agro-based industries into the areas where people are. When we do that, look for markets, we'll be able to turn around the lives of our people. Coming back to your question, Uganda, as I told you, is among the poorest countries, 27 billion. I want to keep reciting it so that the people of Uganda understand how poor we are. $27 billion. You cannot have a huge cabinet. Every minister, almost 2 cars. Each car, 450 million. They travel outside, almost all the time they are outside this country. Every day they go outside, they are paid a per diem of 2.2 million shillings. Spend there 10 days, that is 22 million shillings. That can pay 100 teachers today. 100 teachers today. We have a huge parliament. They don't even have where to sit. A huge parliament. By the end of these elections, we'll be having 435 members of parliament. Each one of them is paid on average 20 million shillings. Each one of them, government buys them a new car. Each one of them, they are given health insurance, medical insurance, worth 50 million plus.
Okay.
So we cannot afford. We must reduce public expenditure. And I want to ask the people of Uganda, through a referendum, so that we change the constitution of Uganda, so that every member of parliament can represent 200,000.
Thank you, round of applause. But let's come to you, Professor Venansius Baryamureeba. You have a specific interest in education, and I'm very keen to hear what your thoughts are as far as, and we're now talking about social services, as far as education system in the country is concerned. What is it that needs to be fixed, and how do you plan to specifically fix it? How do you plan to make sure that universal primary education, for example, is a lot more effective and efficient than it is at the moment?
I'll first begin by making a comment on agriculture. In this country, we used to have cash crops and food crops. But today, almost everything is a cash crop. So I think we need to go back and define the cash crops in each region. And once we do that, the money in NADS, wealth creation, and others, we put it in an agricultural development bank. And once we do that, then we can be able to support people in that area once we zone this country, and we are able to produce in large quantities, and then follow it up with processing. And then we can look at the export, because we have East African Community, we have COMESA. We can also negotiate trade agreements to export more. Now, when we talk about the education sector, I'm trying to rush a bit, but when it comes to time, at times you are strict, at times you are not. So let me focus on the education sector. When you look at our education sector, we need to fix it from bottom up. When you look at the primary curriculum, primary school curriculum, it's not the right curriculum. That's why most people who have money are taking their children to international schools. So we need to fix the curriculum, but also we have what we call education standards. The standards are there, the quality assurance policies are there, but we are not putting in the money. And that is why I propose to put 20% of the national budget into education, so that we can be able to meet those standards.
But then there's also an issue that some people will say the allocation of the funds is not really the problem. The problem is the implementation rather than the allocation of money.
But now we have both. The money is insufficient. Like if you look at the 2 trillion shillings, which is 8.7%, if you divide it among the UPE students, each student gets 102,000 Uganda shillings per term. That's not enough, but the education sector is more than just UPE. You have secondary education, you have vocational, you have university, you have research institutions, and so on.
Do you think that the university students in this country should be supported in their bid to get an education by the state?
Definitely. When you support university students with loans, then the universities will be able to set realistic fees.
Where does that money come from? How do you generate it?
The money.
To pay for that cost?
No, you see, when you give out loans, the loan remains a loan. So we only, for the first 3 or 4 years, the government will be putting in money, but you'll start getting it back when they start working. And that's why we have to focus on improving the quality of education. Once people have skills, getting jobs is easy, like I said much earlier. So we'll be able to grow the private sector, we're able to create jobs abroad. Like if you look at America, Europe, they have an aging population. So we can have Ugandans here, like I told you earlier, working for America, working for Europe. And it works because even as of today, if you go to Europe...
finish that thought and then we'll continue. Finish your point, sir.
Okay, I'm saying that people can work at home for 1 day a week, 2 days a week. So it means that the systems are okay. So you can be based in Uganda and you work for a company in America.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Kyalya, there is some concern with regard to the quality of our education in this country. Some are concerned that the skills that people learn in school do not necessarily translate into skills that are useful in the current economy. What 3 subjects do you think are most important for children to be learning in school?
First and foremost, the grounding of a child is very important.
Sorry, could you just start with what 3 subjects you think are most important in the current economy?
I've heard the question. Can I please answer how I would wish to answer, please? Thank you. First and foremost, the grounding of a child is very important. When I was a child in this country, the national language was Luganda. So from nursery up to P3, we studied Luganda and then went on to study the foreign languages, which is English. And what that did is when we got the English, I'm sure I'm not speaking broken English, and I easily learned French and I can easily learn any other language because the foundation is very strong. As it is now, right from nursery, we are teaching children English. Now, with all the respect, English is a foreign language and it does not go well with our traditional languages. So communication becomes impossible right from the beginning. When it comes to choosing the subjects, again, this government has decided, everybody is a scientist. Actually, if I study now, I wouldn't even have my first degree out finishing senior 4 because I've always been an artist from birth until now. So the natural talents of the Ugandans have not been considered. So I would make sure that, 1, we go back to the assessment of a whole child, a holistic child. Who is this child? Whether they are disabled or they are artistic or they are scientists or artists, can we please encourage them to actually build up those skills and start at a very early stage? During my time again at school, we used to develop our debate skills, for instance, and I can talk and earn a living from it. Education is not just about passing exams, but the education system in Uganda has gone completely down because, 1, we are just focusing on academic intelligence, and the crisis with it is there is a very huge gap now between the uneducated and the educated because they think they know it all, yet all they have is theories and they don't have a slightest idea how to do anything in the country. So I do feel that as a nation, education is not just about input in the head. It's about the skills you pick up as you get along. And that is what I'll be focusing on.
Thank you.
And Dr. Besigye, I'm very keen to hear about what you do about hospitals like Abim Hospital, which you visited. Because the fact of the matter is, whichever country you go to, you will still find dysfunctional hospitals. Or are we saying here that Abim Hospital, that Uganda is made up of so many Abim hospitals and something needs to be done about it? But the key question again is, how do you plan to address that issue?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And, I'd like to first flip over to my earlier pet subject of the foundation of our country. Because all this trying to fix their beams on the basis of a faulty foundation will not work. We simply must get the question of the system of government, the accountability of government, the transparency in the government. We must have it correct, the foundation. Because otherwise you can put money and it will be just flowing down the drain. So first, as a constant, we must have strong institutions and strong systems of accountability. And having said that, in terms of fixing our health system, we must first increase expenditure. Our expenditure in health is completely below the level that could make sense. We at the moment, we would need to spend indeed about 15% consistently for about 5 years to come to some reasonable level of service. But just...
How do you fund that? I'd like you to bear this question in mind as well,
yes,
as you answer.
Yes.
How do you fund that process of putting more money into the health sector?
Yes, I'll shortly turn to that. Now, the ABIMs have also another side of them, of having a lot of our people who are sick from conditions that would otherwise not be there. Most of the conditions you find overloading our curative health system are preventable conditions. Our country needs to focus and refocus on preventive health care to make sure that our people have health education. We must re-emphasize health education right from the primary school and the family. Health education, hygiene, nutrition, and so on. We must emphasize preventive health so that we reduce the burden on their beams. And if you increase expenditure on their beams and fix the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, fix the question of staffing, which must include training, retraining, and payment, motivation, then we can be talking about starting to fix the healthcare system. But it's quite obviously a big and comprehensive subject that cannot be covered in a few sentences.
Thank you.
But funding is critical in healthcare.
Let's go now to Mr. Mabirizi. Uganda achieved 33% of the targets set out in the Millennium Development Goals, with most progress under Goal 1, which was to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. We now have the Sustainable Development Goals, and eradicating poverty is one of the most important things of those 17 goals. What is your strategy to make sure that that is achieved?
My strategy it starts with boosting our economy. And how are we going to boost our economy? Number one, we are going to restore some of the parastatals, the government parastatals that were sold, and building more parastatals so that our people can have jobs in those parastatals. That's number one. Number two, we are going to make sure that we deal away with corruption in our nation. Because once you have dealt away with corruption, you have money to run other things. And number three, we are going to make sure that there is a very good relationship between us and other countries, whereby for every Chinese or an Indian who is working here, we must have a Ugandan working in China or India. And those people, thus creating more jobs and boosting our economy.
So that is your plan for eradicating extreme poverty?
Yes, because people are earning, are living now. You are eradicating poverty.
By them leaving the country.
When you fight that, then you would have given people ability to sustain themselves, because you have created jobs and you are fighting now. You will eradicate poverty out of our country.
Thank you for your views, sir.
Major General Biraaro, I'm very keen to hear about your plans for young people. And how do you turn the fact that Uganda is one of the youngest populations in the world into a demographic advantage rather than a problem? And again, I'd like to tap into policy issues rather than broad statements on creating jobs and things like that. I'm really keen to hear what specific action you take to turn this massive demographic into a dividend.
Thank you. The big demographic figure is not a bad idea as of now, because you would be worried if that population was old and then you had issues of health and whatnot. The main challenge is preparing this population for employment, skilling them. That's the big thing, so that they can be competitive, they can earn money, that's where the problem is. There is medium term, short term and long term, but I don't want to rush into those. I just wanted to say what we have put in our manifesto. For instance, number one, we created a project called Lift Uganda, which was supposed to, that stands for Local Investment for Transformation. And in creating that, we looked at Uganda. 38%, 12 million, live below poverty level. 15 million peasants, but 7 million Ugandans can do something. And I worked out a comprehensive plan, gave it to universities, gave it to government. Other governments from outside wanted to work with us to mobilize $3 billion every year internally to invest in all areas, including youth employment. We would provide 500,000 jobs a year. The president of Uganda said, oh, this is a wonderful thing. Let us forget about those countries abroad. Let us start it here. I said yes. He took 3 years to answer my phone calls, and other countries lost interest. But I was not discouraged. I included it here. But other things that I will do, among the youth especially, I will skills development, because this is where China did a very big thing. Skills development in schools, in secondary schools. The next one is talent development. Ronaldo Messi and Yaya Toure their 1 week salary can pay for the cabinet of Uganda for 5 months. So why don't I start those schools? And it will be my priority to ensure that we start those schools.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Mbabazi, some 39% of respondents in a recent Afrobarometer survey who had contact with a public clinic or hospital said they had found it difficult to obtain medical care needed. And this is an issue that is definitely on Ugandans' minds, healthcare. What are you going to do as president that you have not been able to do in your previous positions in government? What will be different?
What would be different is that I would be president. And I would have the power to take decisions, effective decisions. That's point number one. Point number two, I have said many times in our manifesto, on my campaign trail, that the healthcare system has collapsed, obviously, as I said earlier today. It has collapsed. We have a situation where 19 women, I told you of the case which was reported of a man who tried to operate his wife and she died and lost the child as well. Actually, she joins 19 women that die every day in Uganda while giving birth to children. 19. My idea is that we must move away from what we have today in Uganda, where our hospitals are just fixtures, buildings. We don't have staffing, we don't have medicine, we don't have the kind of things a health care center should have. So what we will do is concentrate on the things we are able to do with the kind of money we have, make sure that we have staffing. We have talked about raising the remuneration of health workers so that they are able to work, to concentrate on their work. We have talked about building accommodation at their place of work so that they have somewhere to sleep. And having a system that ensures that the medicines and other equipment that belong to the state are secure in the hands of the workers in the hospital.
Thank you.
And I think it's this same thing that I'm very interested in raising with you. Abed Bwanika, you are a veterinarian. I'm wondering if you're pleased with the output of the animals in this country. What more needs to be done? And because I see this as a possible option for many people. What do you plan to do to complement what's happening at the moment for the farmers, people who are looking to maximize on the fact that they own animals? You're a veterinarian, you know these animals quite well, and I'm wondering, how do you maximize on the current output of these animals?
First of all, in the entire agriculture sector, the problem is productivity and marketing. That's where we have to put our strength. And in terms of productivity, we are talking about the genetics, we are talking about the breeds. I was in Teso and I was giving them my manifesto for Teso. In Teso, when you go to Teso, you find these small breeds called the zebu animals. They are almost the size of a goat from South Africa. This is what I want to do. First of all, we must change and bring in the improved breeds in this country. We must go in for breeds that mature early, that put on enough meat. When Rwanda got out of the genocide, they came to Uganda and bought all the good animals from Uganda. The whole of Bushenyi, which used to supply us with milk, all the animals are in Rwanda. I want to ensure that we import in the right breeds of animals. Like for areas that have problems like Teso, we must ensure that there is security for these animals. I'm going to bring in a technology. You put a chip within the animal. Even if it is taken to Sudan, you can trace it on a computer. You don't need to be worried by cattle rustling. The one who knows the technology is Dr. Abed Bwanika. So we want to ensure that the farmer is empowered. And in terms of the animals, we are also talking about the fisheries in this country. Right now I'm in Lake Victoria and I'm doing fish farming in Lake Victoria. I have cages down in Lake Victoria. We import cages from China. We import food from Mauritius. And we are using cages 6x6. Out of this cage, you can harvest 7 tons. 7 tons. And you can make on average between 10 to 15 million per cage. You can put 1 million cages in that lake. What we need to do, build a factory here that manufactures the cages, build a factory that manufactures food, empower the people of Uganda to go in the lake and use the water.
Okay. All right, just before we go back round and continue this conversation on social services, I'd like to ask one, just so we have some idea of where you stand on this. Let's talk about the quality of education, which is relatively low, with the worst performing districts in the region of Uganda, all in the northern region. And almost half of Kenyan districts actually outperform the best district in Uganda. What are your solutions for the quality of our education?
First of all, we need to overhaul the entire education system. The education system we have was designed by the colonials to bring in clerks, not thinkers, not innovators. That's why our products don't innovate. We must change the education system to a Y system. When you ask a child 2 years to sit down in Uganda, you ask a child to sit, you tell a child to sit down, that child will immediately respond by sitting down. In the Western world, if you tell a child to sit down, the next question will be why? Why? That why question was killed in our minds. And that is an innovative question, that is an innovative angle. We must ensure that right from the kindergarten, our education system is changed to a Y system. Secondly, my child, I have my youngest child is 5 years, leaves home by 5. You can imagine, leaves home by 5, a child of 5 years. We want to reduce the amount of time a child spends at school, because we understand it is not only school which is a center of learning. We must give time to other centers of learning in this country. We must ensure, my program is to ensure that we build a government secondary school and a technical school in every sub-county, so that students, even in the rural areas, they can access quality education. Today, if you want to pass, as you have rightly said, you must come to Wakiso, you must come to Kampala, you must go to Masaka, which is my former district. We want to give opportunity to students in Amudat who go to 1 first grade. I listened, and the Amudat district, 1 first grade, and it is a district in Uganda. We must ensure that we give them opportunity.
Okay. Okay, and I've got to come down to Maureen Kyalya, who is the only female candidate in this presidential race. And I've got to ask you about women in this country. If you were to paint a picture of a Ugandan woman, what would she look like?
She would be equivalent to 9 men, 9 Ugandan men, very oppressed, too overworked. Actually, a Ugandan woman does all the jobs in the country at no pay at all. She's the housemaid, she is the mother, she is the carer. We don't have a healthcare system for the elderly and the sick, so all the caring needs in the country are done by the women at no pay at all. She is not valued. She has no human rights whatsoever in this country, as in our bodies are for everybody to do as they wish. I know the police stations are there, but the laws in Uganda are there to defeat us. I'm going to give you an example. We have a defilement law that says that if a parent defiles their child, the punishment is death. And actually, Uganda is based on the father. Each father will have 10 children, possibly 4 wives. And if your father defiled you, you possibly can't go to the police, because you are going to make your mother, your stepmothers widows, all your brothers and sisters orphans. The clans are going to chase you out. So all the time we're actually living in fear. We really need a balanced ground, actually. And now that you have asked, I would like to pass on my message to this government that we women are Ugandans and should take part in elections, because part of the problem is we are not entitled to any wealth. But when the government comes up and says that to take part in a presidential election, you must pay 20 million, we are not supporting you. That is discriminative against every single woman in Uganda, because we're inherently and extremely poor in this country.
But if I was speaking for the government, I'd say, that, hold on a moment, we've had a vice president that's a woman, the Speaker of Parliament is a woman, we have female ministers in cabinet, and it is, I would say again, I'm assuming that I'm saying Fono Pondo, that we are indeed doing as much as we can to improve to improve the position of women in the country. Is that something that you'd agree with?
Can I just say that you're actually talking about dummies, as in they are appointed just for the sake of having names? Because let me explain myself. If those women in power were actually entitled and given their rights, I would not be standing here, because the person who was supposed to stand here is Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, and we all looked forward to her being here. But they are crushed. They are not allowed to do anything in this country. Right now, State House does every single job, male or female. You can't talk about a minister in this country. All the business is done in State House by State House officials. I've been a State House official, and I'm talking out of experience. We don't have any management in this country. Not at all.
All right, we'll have to move on to our next candidate, Dr. Kizza Besigye. FDC cites the low numbers of women in elective positions, we'll stay on this topic, and claims to do different when in power. What is different when women in your party are still represented in the Women's League and the highest ranking officers, like party president, party chairman, secretary general, and even flag bearer, are all men? How different will the government look?
Thank you. First of all, the looks of government can be very deceptive. You can have, looks indeed that don't equate with power. What we would like to do, and this runs throughout all the policies of FDC, is empowerment of women right from the grassroots, so that we have empowerment through education, empowerment through access to economic opportunities, empowerment through access to land property, so that they have the ability to make decisions. Otherwise, tokenism of appointing people to certain offices really does not solve the question of empowerment of women. And so we are focusing on the structural improvements, budget, to make sure that in budget allocation is targeted to the development of women and women needs, to make sure that the gender gap is narrowed, but not the tokenism of appointments.
What about you, Mr. Mabirizi? What's in your mind? I'd like to ask you about the girl child, but also to ask you about the boy child. I wonder, again, in the context of gender, I wonder what you'd do if you became president to ensure that both are given an equal amount of attention. I don't know what your opinion on what's happening now is and what needs to be done to improve what's going on.
We shall make sure that women are represented at every level.
Of what?
They should be given positions on every committee from up to down there.
Where?
When I talk about up to down, women must be represented in parliament. Women must be given jobs equally.
Women are already in parliament.
Yes, they are already there. But what percentage is there? So I'm talking about being represented from the bottom. I'm talking about the local councils up to the parliament.
Okay, but I'm talking about the boy child and the girl child, and what more needs to be done in your mind to ensure that their rights are protected, to ensure that they have access to education, to ensure that they have access to all these basic rights that will hopefully mold them into better citizens?
So we shall make sure that we educate our people to cater the same way how they cater for the male child. It should be the same way to the female. So that is what we are going to make sure that we do that.
Thank you very much.
Major General Biraaro. The Army has taken over the National Agricultural Advisory Services, one of many failed agricultural programs. As a retired senior officer who is now running as a candidate of the Farmers' Party, do you support that decision? And what would you do differently if you were elected as president?
First of all, it was a disaster. That I can't imagine that if we have problems in defense, we will take farmers there. It was totally, but the government was trying to solve a backlog of issues in the Ministry of Defense. Many officers lying there without jobs, without employment, without earning. So they used that to call it an agricultural boost. But look at it. My government intends to go back. I wish I could give you a list. By independence, we had agricultural farm institutes, we had training farms, we had training colleges, the Cabanneros. We had many advanced. We had even agro-processing industries, the edible oil, cotton, whatever. All those are now not working. We must revamp that. 2, I will create the agricultural and cooperative bank to solve the problems in agriculture. Especially, get this money that I talked about, hefty sum, divide it into inputs so that the inputs are there. And I'm using a simple model, the Indian model. They go, get the size of land that you have. Somebody runs around your land with this GPS, gets the size, takes the chairperson, they sign. You have land, it's sure, it entitles you to a certain amount of bank loan. You get there. So we are going to capitalize the agriculture.
Your time is up. Thank you. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another quick break right now, and then we shall return with the candidates. And we shall be discussing many issues, but not least issues around governance. What are their plans with governance? And we're talking corruption and the rule of law next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Uganda's first ever live debate. It's televised across the world and locally on NBS as well as NTV and other local TV stations. And thank you very much for those of you joining us live on radio wherever you are in this country. My name is Alan Kasuja, moderating this session with Nancy Kachungira. Now, let's talk about the rule of law in this country. And Honorable Mbabazi, I would like to start with you. What's your assessment of the way things are going at the moment?
I think that we have come a long way as a country because we now have a constitution, we have institutions of state, we have clear pillars of government. But obviously, we still face very many challenges because you couldn't say that the rule of law is fully respected.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Observed and respected.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Let me give you the example of this campaign. I have been around on the campaign trail. The other day, last week, I was in Kotido. And I had my day in Kotido. And I think it was NTV that interviewed people around about their opinion. An 83-year-old man gave his opinion freely. He said for him, he would vote for change, and he gave his reasons. This interview was aired, and the following day, the 83-year-old man was arrested and imprisoned. And I think he's still in jail. Not tried, not charged with any specific offense.
Are you surprised by these things?
Of course I am.
Why? The reason I ask whether or not you're surprised, when you were still Minister of Security, Minister of Defense, the many titles you held, safe houses existed in this country. People were being, if you go by what we've heard, thrown into these safe houses and held incommunicado. While you were Secretary General of the NRM, Kizza Besigye, who is now your comrade, went through what some people might describe as very difficult times. So the key question is, I'm wondering if you are expecting to be treated differently now that you are in the opposition, or whether or not, and whether your personal experiences is what you're learning from in order to seek to improve the situation.
Well, the point is, I am talking about the present. And I'm telling you what is happening. That is what I say is the state of the rule of law in Uganda today. I can go back and tell you what was previously. I thought your question was about the present.
But I also asked if you're surprised by...
Yeah. You see, I believe and I know that the level of civilization of any given society is measured by how that society respects the rule of law and how actually rules govern society. And this is very critical. In Uganda, it's not the case, because you witnessed a case when one group attacked another group, and the attacked defended themselves effectively, and the entire state machinery, including an order from the president, that they must be arrested.
Okay, now, critically, Honorable Mbabazi, I'm wondering if you can respond at all to allegations that have been made by...
But I want to talk about safe houses.
Yes,
do you mind?
Very briefly, because we need to speak to everybody else.
Yeah.
The plight of your security, of your chief bodyguard, Aine. The government says he's in hiding. The government says that he's in hiding and is being helped by some people who might be around you. And I'm just wondering if you can make a statement to clarify what the situation is with that.
But if you know where someone is hiding, then you bring him out. I have commented on this many times because this is a demand by the public wherever you go. They want to know the fate of Christopher Aine. And I have told them what we've done is try to go by the law.
Okay.
My lawyers have applied for the writ of habeas corpus in court, and I hope the court will soon determine the issue so that the government is forced either to bring the body of Aine or say definitively in a court of law that they don't have him. Now, let me talk about this, because there was a very critical point that was made about safe houses. Allow me, please, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, a place where people are detained illegally cannot be a safe house. It is an unsafe house. A safe house is a place used by especially intelligence and security services to carry out activities that need to be secure. It has nothing to do with detention. And therefore, the fact that there were safe houses when I was minister, or even in charge of intelligence for that matter, has nothing to do with what you are describing. Any place which is not gazetted as a detention center is an illegal place and cannot be a safe house. A safe house...
We're going to have to go to Dr. Bwanika now. Thank you. Dr. Bwanika.
I think we all agreed to behave ourselves, so let's just allow Nancy to continue with her job.
Let's be fair to all the candidates. Dr. Bwanika, corruption is a cancer that is eating at this society. Everybody agrees with that. If you become president, you will inherit a government in which people have very little trust for the institutions that it runs. How is that a challenge that you will deal with?
Of course, corruption in Uganda is endemic and it has become a culture among many people in this country. We lose close to $1 billion every year through corruption. And my take is very simple. We have very good laws. I'm not going to enact new laws. We have very good organizations, bodies that fight corruption. I'm not going to put in place new ones. I'm going to do two things. Every person, and I want to put them on the warning, if you have worked for government for the last 30 years, we are going to ask you to account for the wealth that you have. You must account for the wealth that you have. Any wealth, any property which you cannot explain clearly, it will revert to the people of Uganda. Secondly, we are going to go back to the infants, to the elementary school, and teach our children another more value. That for you to amount wealth on yourself cannot be the desired more value for our generation. It is as simple as that. We will fight corruption. If we don't need to take people to Luzira, we only need to get what they have and we'll bring it back to the people of Uganda.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are now in a different part of this discussion, and I'd like to start with you, Professor Baryamureeba. I'm wondering if there's any question you'd like to pose to any of the candidates at all.
Now, I think the question I poses to the NRA stroke NRM historicals. We have three of them here. Kizza Besigye, Abed Bwanika, Amama Mbabazi, and President Museveni this side. It seems, when I listen to them...
Can you keep it to the question as briefly as possible,
yes.
Please?
If I listen to them, it seems like if President Museveni had stuck to what they had agreed upon, none of them would be here. Can I get their response?
Dr. Besigye, what's your response?
Yes, I wouldn't be here. Neither would he.
What about you, General Biraaro?
I would be here. I would be here because if you look at the development of Uganda compared to other nations, I talk of superpowers, we are not there. Industrial powers, we are not there. Developing countries, we are not there. Poor countries like Kenya here, we are not there. We are HIPIC. And then, so the workload remains, and we need to do that.
Mr. Mbabazi, what's your response?
What was the question?
Okay, I will excuse you from that question.
No, I'm ready. I'm happy to answer it if I know what it is.
Would you like to ask your question again?
Ask the question again. Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, I would like to know if President Museveni had stuck to what you agreed upon, would you be here today?
No, because President Museveni would not be president.
Okay. Maureen Kyalya. Maureen Kyalya, I wonder if you've got any question for any of the candidates here.
Of course, I'm a woman, so I'm going to ask Dr. Kizza Besigye. You are a brother-in-law to President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni because you are married to his sister, Honorable Winnie Byanyima. When we talk about change, you are part of the first family. Is it really fair to this country that presidents must move from the first family and rotate within the first family because that makes you part of the first family? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. First, quite obviously, I have nothing against members of the first family seeking leadership of this country, even when one of them is a leader. Our problem in this country is having just systems of government so that whoever is seeking office is not the problem, that the people of Uganda have the power to say you can become or you will not become.
Okay.
Now, having said that, quite obviously, I don't know whether the question was,
are you a member of the first family?
Because quite obviously, I am as far away from the first family as they get.
All right.
I have absolutely no relationship whatsoever with the first family, neither does my wife.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that, Dr. Kizza Besigye. What about you, Dr. Besigye? And I'm going to be more specific about the question that you'll ask. I'll ask you to ask Amama Mbabazi a question. What is that question and what will it be?
Well, a very simple one. I would like to know whether the Honorable Amama Mbabazi, throughout his tenure of the various offices in government, ever became aware of the type and extent of election rigging in this country, and whether if he did and was aware of any election rigging, whether in this particular election he thinks that we can work around it.
Do you, moderator, allow unfair questions? My clear answer is that I am not aware because I was never involved in election rigging. That's a fact. I have heard some stories about election rigging. I don't have any personal or direct knowledge of that rigging. So it is possible, of course, that there was rigging. I'm only saying I was not aware. Secondly, I am absolutely determined to do everything possible to make sure that this election is secure. And we are going to do what it takes, what the situation demands, to ensure that those that have the intentions.
Okay, yeah. If you get to the point as quickly as possible.
I just wanted to say that we will take all the measures possible.
So you'll work with Dr. Besigye in doing that?
Of course.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to lend him my experience.
Mr. Mabirizi, what's your question to whichever candidate you want?
I'm allowed to ask two candidates.
One candidate, please, because of time issues.
Honorable Amama Mbabazi, what do you have to say about supporting the gays and Temangalo land being raised from 14 million to 24 million?
What was the first question? There are two questions. Did you hear the first one?
The first question was, what do you say about... Could you just ask the question so that I'm very clear? I want you to ask the question because you own that question.
He said, what do I think about the something?
What is your question, please, as soon as you can?
Just repeat it as it was.
Yes,
I didn't hear well.
We've heard some voices from here saying that you do support the gays. So what do you have to say about that? And the second question is about Temangalo land being raised from 14 million to 24 million per acre, and there were 414 acres.
Which gays? He asked me whether I support the gays. Which ones?
Homosexuality.
Well, I've heard this story making the rounds. When I was in Lango, I found that one of the MPs called Honorable Amongin, she's a woman, she was saying that I support the gays or I am gay. So I made a public challenge that I stated that, you know very well, I'm a married man. My wife is a woman. We have produced children, and I have incredibly beautiful 11 grandchildren. So I'm not gay. Secondly, I challenged Amangin, in case you had doubts, to put it to the test. And there is another person whom I will not mention now, who has been going around on radios and saying the same things. And I challenged her. I want to challenge her even now. You know, gays are people of the same sex. Now, that person who is talking to me, I'm not sure that it is a lady. I am not aware that she has a husband. I am not aware that she has children. So when you compare me, a married man with children and grandchildren, and someone who is alleging things who does not have any of those, then it becomes difficult. No. The second thing is about Temangalo.
We've run out of time, though.
Temangalo, but I was asking about Temangalo.
Yes,
can I
quickly
answer?
as you can.
First of all, this is the first time ever I hear that Temangalo land price was increased from 14 million to 24. This has never happened. This is an invention of tonight. It never happened.
Does that settle it so that we can move on?
No. Secondly, yes, there were allegations that because I sold my land, 99 acres, not 400, I sold 99 acres, not 400. That's a fact. The allegation was that I had overpriced the land and I had used my influence to get that money from NSSF.
Okay, we do need to move on.
Yes, but I think it is fair when a question is asked, because when you leave it unanswered, the impression given is that it's true.
Yeah, you do need to get to the answer as quickly as you can as well.
Now, I am actually fast, as you know. Fast enough to be understood by everyone. This allegation was probed by Parliament, was probed by police, was probed by the IGG. And all of them came to the same conclusion separately, that price was the market price. In fact, it was below the market price of the land at the time in that area. Secondly, that I did not use any influence, and it would be ridiculous that I had used my influence to be paid less than the market price.
Okay, thank you very much. Major General Biraaro.
To Dr. Kizza Besigye, I intend to advocate for the change of this constitution of Uganda. You have seen that, I have observed, and you may also have observed, that you cannot fight corruption adequately when this kind of constitution is in place. I want to call for the proportional representation where we don't have to have members of parliament going out there to campaign for themselves.
What's your question?
Would he support that? The change of this constitution?
Yes, there are many changes in the constitution that I consider necessary, especially to increase the participation of citizens and to minimize the concentration of power. And the proportional representation is one area that I consider as one of the possible remedies, especially to the type of monetization of politics that we now suffer as a country, where in fact wherever a candidate goes, people are putting up hands openly to say, pay us for a vote. If they were voting a party and not individuals, I guess that would be minimized. Now, having said that, I'd like to talk about the other aspect of that, of what you raise, because you are talking about parliament. I think our biggest problem is the executive. And I think the powers of the executive must be urgently deconcentrated, and regional entities must be created. And that's why we support even the federal system of government, where regions have power to make decisions and to run their affairs wherever they are,
right,
without the single one person in the State House running the show for our country.
Right.
So there are many things.
Mr. Amama Mbabazi, do you have a question for any of the candidates?
No.
Okay. Dr. Abed Bwanika.
First of all, let me use my 10 seconds to pronounce myself on the homosexuality. While I'm the president of Uganda, Uganda will never be a homosexual country. Will never be a homosexual country.
But some people will argue that that point would suggest that you'll be directly discriminating against a certain section of the country.
There is no proof anywhere in the whole world that someone is born homosexual. We will rehabilitate them.
But that doesn't mean that there are no gay people in Uganda, though.
But we will rehabilitate them. We'll help them to come back to become normal people. They must come to be normal people. I just want to ask a question to Honorable Amama Mbabazi. What is your stand on federalism?
I appreciate the popularity tonight. I have made my position very clear. This is in our manifesto. We will respect and act in accordance with the wishes of the people.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
Will you grant Buganda federal?
If they so wish.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. And just before we come to your closing statements, one question for all of you. We'd like to know by show of hands how many of you, if elected to the presidency, would review the Constitution when it comes to the issue of presidential term limits.
Even you, Mr. Mbabazi, who designed the term limits?
Can I answer that?
No, not really.
All right, we're going
to... I'm happy to answer it.
No, it's okay.
It's fine. We are now going to your closing statements. You will each have a chance to speak without us interrupting, finally, for 1 minute. We'll start with you, Professor Baryamureeba.
I would like to thank all Ugandans who are watching us tonight. I'm very happy that we had this debate. I want to assure you one more time that I'm for a peaceful transition. And as Jeff Kennedy said, change is a way of life. And if you only look at the past or the present, you are certain to miss the future. Now I'm more than sure that we need to retire those who are in the struggle, the NRM liberators. And I would like to call upon Ugandans that we need to change to another generation. And I'm very ready with a very good manifesto, very good ideas that can develop this country, and with my expertise. Once we address issues concerning education, issues concerning healthcare and unemployment, then the rest of the matters concerning this country will be fixed. I want to thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to appeal to all Ugandans that chance comes once. This time around, you've had chance. Everybody is actually with us to bring change. And change is not what Honorable Amama Mbabazi spoke about, where you remove NRM only to put NRM. You remove NRM steady forward and put NRM go forward, or NRM reform agenda. Change actually means a change from the military government. Change means a change from the military government to a welfare state where a Ugandan is the priority. I would like to appeal to you. We are all who we are trained. I'm a trained lawyer. I'm a trained social worker. My life is about social activism, making sure I promote human rights. A soldier is taught how to kill. They are not taught to save lives. And as we stand here, there's only 3 social workers, myself, a professor and pastor, but he's also a soldier, by the way, he just changed. Mabirizi, my friend. I'm really appealing to you, if we're going to have a welfare state in this country with a proper national health service system, proper education, proper equality, unity infrastructures, we actually need to forget about the wars and military and tear gas and get to peace and love. I would like to thank the Interreligious Council for letting us to be here. But please, we are still discriminating in this country because I did not see the culture leaders, and these were the leaders of this country before we all came on board. So please bring us together, and if we are united, we're going to get a better governance for this country together. Thank you.
Dr. Besigye.
Thank you very much. Indeed grateful that eventually I was here. It's been a lovely evening. The urgent change and the real fundamental change that our country needs and that is urgent is the empowerment of our citizens, so that for the first time they can take real charge of their country, and that power moves from those with guns to the citizens of Uganda. And that's a project I'm working on right in this election, that citizens of Uganda this time will, for the very first time, lift one of them and put that person into leadership and have control over that leader so that the leader serves their purpose. And as I have been telling our citizens throughout this campaign, we want this to be a peaceful transition, and I have promised that in a very short time, every Ugandan will be walking with a swagger.
Thank you. Mr. Mabirizi, your closing statement.
I want to thank all the organizers of this debate. Thank you so much for organizing this debate. I ask all Ugandans to join me in this struggle of restoring our country, Uganda, unto the Ugandan hands. And I ask you to vote for me because I'm the only candidate who is having plan A, B, and C. Don't vote those people who say that they rigged their votes last time. They went and they slept in their beds for 5 years, and now they are coming back to ask you for votes. And they will rig them, then they go back and rest. There is only one person who is going to make a difference this time around. I won't allow vote rigging, so please vote me in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Major General Biraaro.
I take this opportunity to thank the organizers and thank all the Ugandans who are seeing this program. Really, this was the first level field, level ground, as I said. Ugandans, vote peace. Protect your vote. I take this opportunity to inform you that you have all the gadgets, including your phones, to take evidence. We don't want hearsay. Be there, capture what is happening at a safe distance. Do not be attacked by hooligans. Capture everything so that we can use it in court in case it happens. Support the unity government. There is a lot to be done, and it needs to be done with greater consensus. Vote FPU, Farmers Party of Uganda. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Honorable Mbabazi.
My offer to be the President of the Republic of Uganda for the next 5 years is really to effect my message that it is time Uganda changed. Not only experienced peaceful change of leader, but changed by transiting from one generation to the next. My candidature is for the youth, for the future. I would want to put my considerable experience at the hands and disposal of the young people, so that for the first time in the history of Uganda, we don't have a situation where one government goes and it is replaced by people who have no knowledge, who have no skills about running government. And that's why I was telling you, this country needs people with innovation, but with experience as well, so that we don't talk about steady progress, because we need accelerated progress. We need to move fast in order to catch up with the rest of the world. And in the 5 years I offer, it is to transit from what we are to something new. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Abed Bwanika.
It is true that we have made a case for change, all of us here on this podium. It is also true that there is only one candidate who knows where we are and who can clearly paint where we are going, and that is Dr. Abed Bwanika. My program is for the ordinary people of Uganda. We want to expand the economy. We want to empower every person in this nation to be part of Uganda's economy. We want to provide services. We want to ensure that the youth of this country have got jobs, and that's what I stand for. I want to call upon every Ugandan, come February 18th, go to the poll with boldness, and your candidate is the number one candidate on that ballot paper, Dr. Abed Bwanika.
Thank you very much to all the candidates. We will end, as we began, with the national anthem, just before we close.
And the national anthem will be the East African national anthem as well as the Ugandan national anthem, so stay around for both.
Please stand. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's it, Uganda, for our first ever live televised presidential debate. Thank you to the